At age 33, the man who conquered half the known world lay completely paralyzed. He could not move, he could not speak, and he was trapped inside his own failing body as his physicians prepared him for the end. For 6 days after he was declared dead, his corpse reportedly showed no signs of decay. To his followers, this preservation was undeniable proof that their ruler was an actual living god. Modern medical analysis offers a much darker explanation. The symptoms align perfectly with Guillain-Barré syndrome, a very rare neurological disorder. The lack of decay meant he wasn't decomposing because he was still in a deep coma, meaning the greatest conqueror of the ancient world may have been embalmed alive. The grim reality of his final days stands in sharp contrast to his life. We have to look at how a man who met such a terrifyingly vulnerable end managed to bend the known world to his will. If you trace ancient maps stretching from Egypt all the way to modern-day Pakistan and Afghanistan, you hit the same name over and over again: Alexandria. This map illustrates the campaigns and marches of Alexander. This repetition of his name was a highly deliberate branding strategy, stamping his personal legacy permanently into the earth. Through a relentless military campaign, he marched from Macedonia to the borders of India, forcing wildly disparate cultures to bow to a single ruler. This geographic expansion was the physical manifestation of an ego that refused to acknowledge any boundaries. The root of that drive begins with his father, King Philip II of Macedon. Philip was a massive historical figure, a brilliant military tactician who brought the independent Greek city-states under his control, casting a long shadow over his son. Alexander's position as heir was never entirely secure. During Philip's wedding to a new Macedonian bride, the bride's father publicly insulted Alexander, calling him a half-blood and demanding a true, pure-blooded Macedonian heir. When Philip died suddenly, Thebes saw an opportunity to rebel against the young king. Alexander responded by marching his army to Thebes and burning the ancient, powerful city completely to the ground. Erasing a major Greek city from the map sent a clear message to the rest of the empire. Alexander would use absolute, unyielding violence to force the respect he felt his bloodline was denied. With Greece subdued, Alexander looked east to fulfill his father's final dream, invading the wealthy, massive, and heavily armed Persian Empire. His success relied on specific military intelligence. Instead of launching brute force frontal assaults against the superior numbers of the Persian army, he identified gaps in their lines and executed precision strikes at their weakest points. This strategy broke the Persian forces. During their ultimate clash, King Darius III fled the battlefield in such a severe panic that he left his own royal family behind for Alexander to capture. Defeating the Persian ruler transferred an aura of untouchable invincibility to the young conqueror. His momentum carried him into Egypt. The locals were so desperate to be free of Persian taxation and control that they surrendered without a fight, welcoming him entirely. Here, a calculated rumor circulated by his mother, Olympias, took root. She claimed that Alexander's true father was not King Philip, but the supreme god Zeus. Alexander embraced the mythology completely. He allowed himself to be crowned pharaoh, willingly adopting the titles and physical trappings of a living deity. This shift altered his court. He began demanding that his generals observe Persian customs, including bowing to him, which deeply alienated the veteran Greek soldiers who fought alongside him from the beginning. His behavior grew increasingly eccentric. He occasionally dressed in the garments of the goddess Artemis and elevated his closest male companions to ranks above the seasoned military commanders who had won him his empire. Alexander's god-king complex now dictated his every decision. Rational military necessity yielded to a dangerous, unchecked obsession with his own divine status. His ambition eventually pushed the army to the Indus River Valley. It was a severe terrain, entirely alien to his Macedonian forces. Here they faced King Porus, an Indian ruler deploying armored war elephants. The Macedonians had to fight these massive beasts in the middle of blinding torrential monsoon rains. Alexander won the battle, but the victory effectively destroyed his army. The relentless mud and weather ruined the hooves of their horses and broke the physical stamina of his surviving foot soldiers. His psychological drive was limitless, but the physical reality of ancient warfare hit a hard wall. The unstoppable advance of the God King ended with a total strike by his own Macedonian soldiers. The Macedonians were exhausted, their armor was rotting off their bodies, and they harbored deep resentment over Alexander incorporating conquered Persians into their ranks and treating them with favoritism. Faced with mutiny, Alexander suffered an emotional collapse. He threw a tantrum, locking himself inside his tent for 3 days in a furious battle of wills against his troops. The standoff ended with a total surrender by the self-proclaimed deity. He yielded to the demands of exhausted mortals and ordered the retreat. An empire built entirely on the momentum of one man's ego collapses immediately when that man is forced to stop. Alexander died unceremoniously in Babylon shortly after the retreat. He left behind a fractured empire and centuries of debate over whether a disease or an assassin's poison finally stopped his heart. His relentless push eastward forced fragmented territories in India to consolidate into a single, massive empire as a matter of survival. Alexander broke his army, and he broke his own body. But by pushing past the limits of mortal endurance, he purchased the exact historical immortality he was obsessed with.